now?
I don't know.
Who talked you into
I don't
this?
know. A lot of people
Yeah.
just got tired of...
No one ever suspected the war behind her smile. While the world fell in love with America's sweetheart, Jennifer Aniston was silently battling demons no camera could capture. Who could imagine that the radiant star of Friends, whose laughter lit up millions of living rooms, spent years hiding an invisible ache that never left her side? The woman who became the face of Hollywood's golden age of sitcoms was, in reality, fighting for her own sense of worth behind closed doors. Why did she cry alone after standing ovations? Why did love always seem to slip through her fingers just as she grasped it? Tonight, we uncovered Jennifer Aniston, not the celebrity, but the survivor. What you're about to witness is a side of Hollywood no spot. Jennifer Joanna Aniston was born on the 11th of February 1969 in Sherman Oaks, California, into what the public might have seen as a privileged Hollywood lineage. Her father, John Aniston, was a recognizable actor in the soap opera world, and her mother, Nancy Dow, was a former model and actress. But behind the glamour of the family name was a house filled with silence, conflict, and deep emotional cracks. Her earliest memories weren't of applause or affection, they were of absence. Her father walked out when she was only 9 years old. One morning, he kissed her on the head and disappeared. He didn't explain, didn't fight for custody, didn't come back for months. Jennifer would later describe it as the moment she first learned how to pretend she was okay when she wasn't. Even before the divorce, the household wasn't warm. Her mother, Nancy, was strict, critical, and at times cutting with her words. She was obsessed with appearances, with perfection. And Jennifer, the curious, sensitive little girl who preferred drawing and make-believe over mirrors and posture, never seemed to measure up. Nancy would tell her daughter things no child should ever hear. "You're not pretty enough. Your face looks weird when you smile like that." She would pick me apart, Jennifer confessed, in a rare interview years later, and I'd just try to disappear inside myself. School didn't offer an escape. Jennifer struggled academically, later discovering she had undiagnosed dyslexia, which made her feel stupid and less than compared to other kids. Teachers labeled her slow. Classmates teased her. She would often sit in the back, hiding behind her hair, hoping no one would notice she hadn't finished the reading assignment. But perhaps the deepest wound wasn't academic, and it wasn't even her mother's words. It was the constant sense that she wasn't truly seen by anyone, not for who she was. She became an expert at performing happiness, even before she ever stepped on a stage. There's a photo of young Jennifer, around 10 years old, wearing a frilly dress at a school recital. Her arms are stiff at her sides. Her eyes look out, but don't sparkle. She's smiling, but the smile doesn't quite reach her soul. This was the birth of a lifetime habit, smiling through the pain. She once said, "I was raised in an environment that made me feel less than. I grew up believing that being lovable meant being perfect." As a teenager, her relationship with her mother deteriorated even further. Nancy would criticize her appearance, her weight, her skin. She was a model. "I was just her daughter," Jennifer said, trying to mask the bitterness with a laugh that cracked halfway through. One argument led to them not speaking for years. Even during Jennifer's rise to superstardom, her mother wasn't by her side. She wrote a book about her daughter without permission. It felt like betrayal. A mother who had never praised her in private now exploited her in public. Jennifer never lashed out, never wrote a tell-all in return. Instead, she buried it deeper. To the world, she was growing up beautiful and poised, but inside, she still felt like the dyslexic little girl who couldn't read the chalkboard and didn't know why her mom never said, "I'm proud of you." It was in these early years that Jennifer learned her most dangerous lesson. To survive, she must smile, no matter what it costs her. Jennifer Aniston didn't stumble into Hollywood fame, she clawed her way into it, often doubting every step. After graduating from New York's Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, the same school that inspired fame, she left home with more emotional baggage than suitcases. With her mother's biting words still echoing in her mind, and her father's distant shadow hovering over her dreams, Jennifer took her first steps into the brutal maze that was the acting world. But Hollywood wasn't waiting with open arms. She auditioned endlessly, commercial spots, bit roles, student films. Time and again, she was told no. "Two Girl Next Door? Not edgy enough." Pretty, but forgettable. She played in a string of flops and short-lived television shows. Malloy, Ferris Bueller, the television remake, The Edge, all cancelled, all dead ends. It was humiliating. Her agent dropped her. Her confidence was eroding. She was 24, jobless, and waiting tables in Los Angeles. At night, she cried into her journal, wondering if she had made a mistake. "I remember walking down Sunset Boulevard thinking, should I just go back to New York and give up?" she would later admit. The rejections piled up one after another, first, then second, then third, then fourth. She nearly quit acting after a particularly soul-crushing failed pilot, where a casting director told her she had a forgettable face. The words lingered like a curse. But fate, or perhaps stubborn hope, had other plans. In 1994, she got a call for a new sitcom, Just Another Pilot, a six-friend ensemble comedy. The role of Rachel Green wasn't even meant for her at first. She was cast as Monica, but producers saw something in Jennifer, a vulnerability behind her charm, a storm behind her eyes. They made a switch. She hesitated. She'd been down this road before. Pilots came and went like mirages in the desert. Still, she showed up on set. She spoke her lines. She flipped her hair. And something electric happened. When Friends premiered, it didn't just launch her career, it detonated it. Audiences instantly fell in love with her. The hair, the fashion, the voice. Jennifer Aniston became the it girl of a generation. But behind the scenes, she was still adjusting to the idea that people finally saw her. "I had spent so long trying to prove I was worth loving," she said, "and suddenly everyone loved me, but I didn't know how to love myself." Fame brought opportunity, money, applause. And yet, Jennifer couldn't shake the feeling that she was still just a girl pretending, that, at any moment, the world might realize she wasn't as confident, or as beautiful, or as funny as Rachel Green. One of her earliest paychecks from Friends, just $22,500 per episode in season 1, felt like winning the lottery. But even then, she walked into stores and hesitated to buy things. She still heard her mother's voice, reminding her to not act too entitled. Each time she stepped on stage or faced a new camera, a little voice in her whispered, "Don't mess this up. They'll leave if you mess this up." So, while the world saw a star ascending, Jennifer felt like she was still climbing a mountain barefoot, afraid to fall, afraid to look back. And the higher she climbed, the more alone she began to feel. By the year 2000, Jennifer Aniston wasn't just a star, she was the star. With Friends becoming a global phenomenon, her paycheck skyrocketed from $22,000 or $500 an episode to an unprecedented $1 million per episode in the final seasons. Rachel Green had become a cultural icon. Hair salons across the world had customers demanding the Rachel. Magazine covers fought over her smile. Paparazzi hunted her every move. She was, undeniably, the face of a generation, and Hollywood treated her like royalty. But what the world saw as success, Jennifer often experienced as suffocation. Behind the carefully curated red carpet appearances, the glowing interviews, and the award speeches, there was a woman barely keeping it all together. She once said, "When everything is perfect on the outside, it's easy to convince the world that you're fine. even when you're not. At the height of her fame, Jennifer was being pulled in every direction. Studios wanted her for rom-coms, brands wanted her endorsement, fans wanted her to be Rachel all the time. And worst of all, the media wanted her marriage. Because in 2000, Jennifer Aniston became one half of the most watched couple in the world. She married Brad Pitt, the golden boy of Hollywood. Together, they were seen as untouchable, perfect, dreamlike. But perfection is a prison. Inside the four walls of that golden cage, Jennifer struggled with the pressure to perform happiness. She had the man, the money, the fame. And yet, something deep inside still felt empty. Every interview asked her the same question: when are you having children? Every headline speculated, pregnant or not. Behind the scenes, she was quietly trying to conceive and failing. Each miscarriage, each failed attempt, was another silent heartbreak. But she never lashed out, never corrected the rumors. She swallowed the pain and smiled harder. "I didn't want to be the story," she admitted years later, "so I let them write it for me." At the same time, her film career exploded. From The Good Girl to Bruce Almighty, along came Polly, and Marley and Me. Jennifer proved she was more than just a sitcom darling. She had range. She had depth. She could make you laugh and then break your heart with a single look. She received nominations, awards, and box office glory. But even then, the industry whispered, can she ever really be taken seriously? It didn't matter how many roles she nailed. To many, she was still Rachel, still the pretty girl, still the sitcom star. And so, with every success, there was a shadow. The more she gave to the world, the more pieces of herself she lost. She had no privacy, no true home. Tabloids camped outside her windows. Strangers commented on her body. The most intimate parts of her life, her marriage, her womb, her worth, were dissected by millions. She once described fame as being loved by people who don't know you and judged by them too. At night, she would come home from a film set, peel off the layers of makeup, and stare at herself in the mirror. "Who am I when no one's watching?" she'd ask silently. Because at the very top of the mountain, Jennifer found something few dare speak of: isolation. The kind of loneliness that fame can't fix. The kind that comes when your smile is part of your job, but your sadness is no one's business. By her late 30s, she had all the trophies, the acclaim, the fortune. She had everything except peace. The world found out before she did. In January 2005, the headlines exploded. Brad and Jen split. It wasn't just a celebrity breakup. It was a cultural rupture. Fans took sides. Magazines printed screaming covers. Team Jen versus Team Angelina merchandise flew off shelves like political slogans. But behind the gossip, behind the flashing cameras and PR statements, was a woman quietly falling apart. Jennifer Aniston didn't just lose a husband, she lost a sense of self. For 5 years, their marriage had been under a microscope. Every touch, every look, every silence between them was analyzed. When Brad began filming Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Angelina Jolie, the rumors began. Jennifer denied them, trusted him, smiled in interviews, told the press everything was fine. But everything was not fine. She would later say, "I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning in someone else's story." Behind closed doors, she cried until her chest burned. The betrayal wasn't just about losing love, it was about losing control of her own narrative. The woman who had fought her whole life to be seen was once again being rewritten by others. Tabloids painted her as the poor victim, the barren one, the desperate woman. But Jennifer never wanted pity, she wanted privacy. "I never said I didn't want kids," she would later defend herself. That was a lie repeated so many times. People thought it was true. In reality, she had tried. quietly, repeatedly, and it hadn't worked. But the media didn't care about nuance. They needed a headline. And so, every day, she woke up to new wounds written in bold font at every checkout aisle. She immersed herself in work to survive. But even there, the pain followed. One morning, on the set of The Breakup, she broke down mid-scene, the irony of the film's title stinging her deeper than the script ever could. Co-stars described her as professional but distant. She laughed at jokes she didn't find funny. She smiled during interviews with tears hidden just behind her eyes. And when the cameras stopped rolling, she'd sit in her trailer, silent, staring, shaking. She wasn't suicidal, but she was lost. There's a kind of grief that doesn't come from death. It comes from being erased while still alive. And Jennifer felt like she was fading, frame by frame. Her mother passed away in 2016, after years of estrangement. They had made peace before the end, but the wounds remained. Nancy Dow never apologized for the book, for the years of silence, for the coldness. And Jennifer never truly asked her to. Because by then, she had learned a truth about pain. You don't always get closure. Sometimes, you just learn how to carry it better. But it was during these years between heartbreak and headlines that Jennifer Aniston faced the most important decision of her life. Would she keep playing the perfect woman the world wanted? Or would she finally begin becoming the woman she truly was? In an interview with Vanity Fair, she let her guard down for the first time. The world watched as the cracks in her Hollywood mask became human. She cried. She confessed. She said things stars weren't supposed to say. "I'm lonely," she whispered, "but I'm okay with it." Those words echoed like a rebellion. She wasn't angry. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't broken. She was healing. One slow, silent step at a time. Jennifer Aniston didn't reinvent herself with a bang. She didn't stage a comeback, scream for attention, or tear down those who hurt her. She did something far more radical in Hollywood. She went quiet. In her 40 seconds, she began stepping back from the spotlight, not out of defeat, but out of choice. She turned down roles that felt empty. She stopped chasing the approval of an audience that never really knew her. She began curating her life like an artist would a canvas, slowly, deliberately, and with a vision. "I stopped trying to please everyone," she said in a rare interview. "And for the first time, I felt free." She started therapy, not because of a crisis, but because she wanted to understand herself, her patterns, her inherited wounds, her mother's voice still echoing in her mind. The buried grief of miscarriages, the public pain of betrayal, all of it unpacked, faced, and slowly released. She leaned into friendships. Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, people who had known her before the media decided who she was. They grounded her, reminded her of the girl who once hid in the back of the classroom, dreaming of being seen. She began producing, not just acting. She wanted stories with meaning, complexity, soul. In the morning show, she delivered perhaps her most raw performance ever, playing a woman navigating power, grief, betrayal, and redemption. Art imitated life, and Jennifer's pain became a mirror for millions. She earned critical acclaim, a Screen Actors Guild Award, but more importantly, something deeper: respect. She started using her platform to speak out about women's rights, body image, and the toxic narratives media imposed on women. "I'm not ashamed of my age. I'm not defined by my relationships. I'm not broken," she declared. And slowly, the world stopped asking when she would become a mother and started listening to the motherly wisdom she had to offer. She adopted dogs, practiced meditation, built a sanctuary home with warm light and quiet corners. No more chaos, no more pretending, just peace. She even reconciled, in her own way, with Brad Pitt, not romantically, but as two souls who had grown, hurt, and healed in public. When they were spotted backstage together at the SAG Awards in 2020, fans exploded with hope. But Jennifer wasn't interested in reliving old flames. She had already walked through that fire. "I don't look back in anger," she said. "I look back in gratitude, because even the pain led me somewhere better." Her greatest act of rebellion wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a tell-all memoir. It was becoming herself fully, freely, without apology. And in doing so, Jennifer Aniston found something far more enduring than fame. Peace without permission. Do you remember that 10-year-old girl on stage in the frilly dress, smiling, stiff, unsure? She's still there. Somewhere behind Jennifer Aniston's timeless glow, behind the poise, behind the laughter you know so well. That girl who once believed she had to be perfect to be loved, now stands before the world, imperfect, honest, and finally, truly loved. Hollywood gave her fame. Then, it took her dignity. Then, slowly, quietly, she took it all back. Her story isn't one of tragedy. It's one of transformation. Because Jennifer Aniston didn't just survive the spotlight, she reshaped it. She taught us that strength isn't loud, that healing isn't linear, that sometimes the brightest smiles carry the heaviest truths. And maybe, just maybe, the people we admire most aren't the ones who never broke, but the ones who broke and came back brighter. So the next time you see her on screen, whether she's making you laugh or tearing up in a moment of stillness, remember, behind every expression is a lifetime of battles you never saw. And behind every battle, a woman who refused to be anything less than real. If this journey touched something in you, even for just a moment, let that be your quiet applause. For her, and maybe for yourself too.